He was just a passenger, they'd say. But when the ship failed, even the alien pilots gasped. Max Reeves, a human, idly swirled the iridescent blue liquid in his glass, mesmerized as it caught the light from the 3 miniature suns streaming through the enormous viewport of the celestial cruiser, the Voyager. This luxury liner was the crown jewel of the Astralin fleet, a masterpiece of gleaming surfaces and graceful curves, meticulously crafted to impress even the most affluent travelers from 17 distinct star systems. "Another nebula twist, sir?" inquired the bartender, a 4-armed Korean whose skin shimmered with the color of burnished copper. "Why not?" Max responded with an easy grin. "Not like I have anywhere pressing to be." This, he mused, was the true luxury of retirement. After a demanding 15-year career as a combat pilot in Earth's Interstellar Defense Force, followed by another decade transporting commercial cargo, Max had finally decided it was time to savor the rewards of his hard work. His inaugural act of leisure, securing passage on the most opulent alien cruise ship that would countenance human credits. The bartender smoothly glided another drink across the polished surface. "First time on an Astralin vessel? That obvious, huh?" Max chuckled, his broad shoulders shifting beneath his perfectly tailored navy shirt. At 45, he maintained an exceptional physique, a stubborn relic of his military discipline. His dark hair, precisely trimmed, bore just enough gray at the temples to signal experience, not encroaching age. "Most humans prefer their own ships," the bartender observed. "You're one of only 3 aboard." Max took a sip of his drink. "Always preferred the road less traveled." "And how is that road treating you so far?" A melodious voice drifted from his left. Max turned, his gaze immediately captivated by the most stunning sea-green eyes he had ever encountered. They belonged to a woman, at least, he presumed so, whose smooth turquoise skin seemed to shimmer with faint silver flecks under the ambient lighting. Her hair cascaded down her back in luxuriant strands of white and pale blue, and her form-fitting emerald attire elegantly emphasized curves that, surprisingly, mirrored human anatomy. "Better by the minute," Max replied, offering a slight raise of his glass. "Max Reeves. Nerra Thealassie," she introduced herself, gracefully sliding onto the stool beside him. "Anthropological researcher. I specialize in interspecies cultural exchange." "And am I currently being researched?" Max asked, a hint of a smirk playing on his lips. Her lips, fuller than a human's and subtly tinted blue, curved upward. "Perhaps. Humans, you fascinate me, so incredibly adaptable." "That's one way of putting it," Max conceded. "Most species simply call us reckless." "Is that why you're the sole human in the platinum-class section of an Astralin ship?" she inquired, ordering what appeared to be liquid moonlight in a tall, twisted glass. "Just seeking a change of scenery? After flying vessels my entire life, it's rather pleasant to be a passenger for once." Nerra's eyes widened fractionally. "A pilot, military formerly, then commercial, now simply a man enjoying his retirement? How intriguing." She took a delicate sip of her drink. "Most species consider humans to be exceptionally skilled pilots. Something about your distinct neurological wiring and spatial awareness." Max merely shrugged. "We're adequate, though I'd bet credits on those Astralin pilots on the bridge. I toured the cockpit yesterday. Their navigation systems are unlike anything I've ever seen." "Captain Eldon is quite proud of his ship," Nerra agreed, "though I find the crew a touch overconfident." As if summoned by their conversation, the ship's communication system chimed softly. "Esteemed passengers," a smooth voice announced, "this is Captain Eldon. We will soon be transiting a region of space renowned for its spectacular stellar formations. Viewports will automatically adjust for optimal viewing conditions. Enjoy the journey." Max and Nerra turned toward the colossal viewport as the ship's lighting subtly dimmed. Outside, swirling patterns of cosmic dust, painted in hues of purple and blue, began to emerge, illuminated by distant stars. "Beautiful," Nerra murmured. "Worth the price of admission," Max concurred, though he found his gaze drifting more often to her profile than the breathtaking vista beyond. The ship glided effortlessly through the vibrant nebula, its advanced engines emitting scarcely a sound. Max was genuinely impressed. He had commanded some high-end vessels in his time, but none possessed this level of sophistication. Their tranquil appreciation was abruptly shattered when the ship lurched violently to one side. Max's drink sloshed over the rim of his glass, while Nerra braced herself against the bar. "That's not right," Max muttered, his pilot's instincts immediately flaring to life. The lights flickered once, then twice, before stabilizing at half their usual brightness. The ship's communication system crackled. "This is Captain Eldon," the voice, now strained, announced. "We are experiencing some technical difficulties. Please remain calm and stay in your current locations." Max exchanged a telling glance with Nerra. "Technical difficulties on an Astralan flagship? That's akin to declaring that water has decided to defy gravity and flow uphill." The ship shuddered again, this time with greater force. Emergency lights flickered on along the floor, casting a soft, amber glow. "Something's amiss with the stabilizers," Max declared, standing upright, "and likely the navigation system as well." "How can you discern that?" Nerra inquired, rising beside him. "Because we're listing heavily to port, and the inertial dampeners are clearly struggling to compensate." He gestured toward a decorative water feature, where the liquid was visibly tilted despite the artificial gravity. A third jolt rocked the vessel, sending several passengers tumbling to the floor. Panic began to ripple through the lounge as beings of diverse species exchanged bewildered and fearful glances. "I need to get to the bridge," Max stated decisively. Nerra caught his arm. "You're a passenger. They won't grant you access." Max's expression hardened with resolve. "Just watch me." The corridor leading to the bridge pitched and groaned violently as Max and Nerra hurried forward. Emergency lighting cast an ominous amber glow across the walls, lending Nerra's turquoise skin an almost golden hue. Crew members, all Astralan with their characteristic blue skin and immaculate uniforms, rushed past them, their typically composed demeanor now replaced by barely concealed panic. "You truly believe they'll accept your assistance?" Nerra questioned, matching Max's determined stride. "They won't have a choice," Max retorted, his jaw set. "That last jolt wasn't a mechanical failure. We've encountered some form of storm system." As if to validate his assessment, the ship lurched once more. Max instinctively reached out, catching Nerra before she could fall, his hand pressing against the small of her back. The thin material of her outfit did little to obscure the warmth of her skin. Their eyes met briefly, and Max felt an unexpected surge of heat that had nothing to do with the ship's deteriorating condition. "Thanks," she murmured, her voice softer than before. She did not immediately withdraw. "Don't mention it," he replied, equally quietly. The moment stretched between them, charged with an intensity neither had anticipated. Another violent shudder of the ship shattered the spell. They pressed on towards the bridge, now only a few meters distant. Two security officers stood guard at the entrance, their postures rigid despite the ship's alarming instability. "Passengers are not permitted on the bridge during emergency procedures," one declared firmly. "I'm Max Reeves, former IDF combat pilot. Your ship is caught in an electromagnetic storm that's disrupting your navigation systems. I can help." The guards exchanged hesitant glances. "Wait here," one instructed, disappearing through the door. Nerra leaned closer to Max. "How did you know it was an electromagnetic storm?" "The pattern of system failures," he explained. "Navigational first, then communications, now stabilizers. Classic EM cascade." He glanced at her with a half-smile. "I've flown through a few." The door slid open, revealing a bridge plunged into chaos. Displays flickered with static, and the main view screen depicted a swirling mass of energy that was decidedly not the scenic nebula they had been promised. Captain Eldon, a tall Astralan with aristocratic features, looked up sharply. "This is highly irregular, but my first officer says you're qualified. What do you suggest, human?" Max moved immediately to the navigation console, where two pilots, one male, one female, were frantically struggling to maintain control. "Your systems are too sensitive," Max stated, scanning the displays. "They're designed for precision, but this storm is overwhelming them with contradictory data." The female pilot, her blue skin pale with stress, glared at him. "Our systems are the most advanced in the quadrant." "And that," Max replied without hesitation, "is the problem. You need to disengage the automatic response protocols and switch to manual control." "Manual?" The male pilot looked utterly horrified. "No one flies Astralan ships manually." Captain Eldon stepped closer. What he is suggesting is impossible. Our navigation systems are integrated with... The ship violently pitched sideways, sending several crew members sprawling to the floor. Warning alarms blared from multiple stations. Hull integrity at 70% and falling, an officer reported. We don't have time to debate this, Max declared firmly. Your advanced tech can't handle this storm. Basic piloting can. The captain hesitated, then nodded sharply. Do it. The pilots reluctantly moved aside. Max took the main control seat, his hands hovering over the unfamiliar interface. I need to feel the ship, he muttered. Where's your manual override? The female pilot reached across him, her arm brushing his shoulder as she entered a complex sequence. The control panel transformed, simplifying into a more direct interface. Max grasped the controls, feeling the fierce resistance as the ship battled against the storm's unrelenting influence. It was akin to trying to ride a wild stallion with silk reins, but he had flown through worse. Nerra, he called over his shoulder, I need you to monitor that display and notify me when the energy readings spike. She moved to his side without question, her presence a steady anchor as he wrestled with the ship's controls. The storm is intensifying, she reported, her voice remarkably composed amid the surrounding chaos. Energy readings are wildly fluctuating. Max responded with a subtle nod, his fingers making precise adjustments. We can neither outpace it nor bypass it. Our only option is to ride it out. Like surfing a wave? Nerra inquired. Max glanced at her, surprised. Do you know about surfing? A faint smile touched her lips. I told you I study cultures. I've spent time on Earth. A surprising warmth blossomed in Max's chest at this disclosure, but he quickly refocused on their immediate predicament. The ship shuddered as he steered it directly into the Tempest's core. What are you doing? Captain Eldon demanded, his voice laced with alarm. Trust me, Max replied, his voice resonating with unwavering confidence. Sometimes, to escape, you must first endure the trial. As they plunged deeper into the electromagnetic maelstrom, the lights flickered more violently, casting erratic shadows. The crew collectively held its breath, witnessing this human, this mere passenger, navigate their advanced vessel with an intuitive grace that defied their understanding. Nerra stood close beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his shoulder when the ship lurched particularly hard, each touch sending a jolt through Max completely unrelated to the tempest raging outside. Energy spike inbound, she warned, her lips close to his ear. Max affirmed with a nod, tightening his grip on the controls. Hold on tight. The ship then hurtled into the storm's heart, its systems screaming in protest. For 3 terrifying seconds, absolute darkness enveloped them. Then, with a final violent shudder, they burst through into the clear expanse on the other side. A wave of relieved exclamations erupted on the bridge as the system slowly began to reactivate. Max released the controls, suddenly aware of the sweat chilling his shirt. Nerra's eyes met his, filled with an expression that quickened his pulse. That was truly impressive, she murmured. Captain Eldon approached, his face a blend of relief and slightly bruised pride. It seems we are indebted to you, Mr. Reeves. Max rose, offering a respectful nod. Just glad I could be of assistance. As they exited the bridge, Nerra walked closer to Max than strictly necessary. In the corridor's relative privacy, she gently touched his arm, prompting him to stop. I've studied numerous species, she stated, her voice intimate in the dimly lit passage. But humans continue to astonish me. Max felt the intensity of her gaze. Good surprises, I hope. Her fingers lightly traced his arm. Exceedingly good. Perhaps we could continue our conversation somewhere more private. I have many questions about human capabilities. Max felt his heart rate surge in a way no emergency ever had. I believe that can be arranged. Damage report, Captain Eldon barked as the bridge crew frantically assessed their situation. A young Astralin officer looked up from his console, his blue face pale with concern. Sir, primary propulsion is offline. Secondary systems are at 30% capacity. All breaches on decks 7 and 9 are contained by emergency force fields. Max, who had remained on the bridge at the captain's reluctant request, exchanged a knowing glance with Nerra. Both understood the gravity of the situation. We need to land, Max stated flatly. Your ship cannot maintain spaceflight in this condition. Captain Eldon's jaw tightened. The celestial Voyager was not designed for planetary landings. It's either a controlled landing or an uncontrolled crash, Max countered. There's a habitable planet in this system, isn't there? I saw it on the navigation display before we hit the storm. The first officer reluctantly nodded. Terrafex 4, technically within our territory, but largely unexplored. Any inhabitants? Nerra asked. Primitive indigenous species, the first officer replied. Pre-space flight. We've had minimal contact. Captain Eldon paced the bridge, clearly wrestling with his limited options. Finally, he turned to Max. Can you land this vessel? I can try, Max answered honestly, but I'll need your pilot's assistance. They know the ship better than I do. The female pilot, whose name Max had learned was Lieutenant Pax, stepped forward. I'll assist. Within minutes, they were descending toward Terrafex 4, the damaged ship groaning in protest. Max's hands moved steadily over the controls, working in surprising harmony with Lieutenant Pax, despite their disparate training. Atmosphere entry in 30 seconds, Pax announced, her professional demeanor firmly back in place. Max nodded. The angle of approach looks good. We'll aim for that plateau near the equator. It appears flat enough for our requirements. The ship shuddered violently as they hit the upper atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hold temperature rising, an officer reported. Structural integrity at 65%. We're coming in too hot, Pax warned, her fingers dancing across her controls. Max's expression remained calm. Compensating. Nerra, what's our trajectory looking like? Nerra, who had assumed control of a secondary navigation station, responded instantly. You're right on target. The plateau is 12 kilometers ahead. The view screen first showed clouds rushing past as they descended through the atmosphere, then cleared to reveal a vast landscape, a canvas of purple-tinged vegetation and strange rock formations. Brace for landing! Max called out as he struggled to keep the massive vessel level. The ship hit the ground with a bone-jarring impact, skidding across the plateau's surface. Metal screamed in protest as the vessel plowed a deep furrow into the alien soil before finally grinding to a halt. For a moment, an eerie silence permeated the bridge. Then, damage reports began flooding in. We're down in one piece, Captain Eldon said, sounding almost surprised. Excellent work, Mr. Reeves. Max released his white-knuckled grip on the controls. Thanks, but we're not out of trouble yet. Indeed, the captain conceded. We need to assess the damage, initiate repairs, and establish a secure perimeter. This planet is largely unknown to us. As the captain issued orders to his crew, Max felt Nerra's hand on his shoulder. That was remarkable flying, she said softly. He turned to face her, suddenly aware of their close proximity. Just doing what needed to be done. That seems to be a human trait, she observed, her sea-green eyes studying him intently. Doing what needs to be done, regardless of protocol or convention. We're adaptable, Max replied with a slight smile. It's how we've survived. It's more than that, Nerra said, her hand remaining on his shoulder, her touch sending warmth through his body despite the ship's cooling systems working overtime. There's a directness to humans that most species find either terrifying or fascinating. And which do you find it? Max asked, his voice lower. Her lips curved into a smile that made his pulse quicken. Definitely fascinating. Their intimate moment was interrupted by Captain Eldon. Mr. Reeves, since you've proven yourself useful, I'd like you to join the initial survey team. We need to establish whether this location is secure. I'll come too, Nerra volunteered. I have experience with first contact situations. Outside the ship, Terrafex 4's twin suns cast an amber glow over the alien landscape. The air, though breathable, carried unfamiliar scents, something akin to cinnamon mixed with ozone. The survey team, consisting of Max, Nerra, Lieutenant Pax, and 2 security officers, moved cautiously away from the landed vessel. Readings show no immediate threats, Pax reported, scanning with a handheld device. Local flora appears non-toxic to most humanoid species. Max surveyed the strange terrain. At least we had a good landing spot. Flat, solid ground, good visibility. Yes, Nerra agreed, walking beside him. Almost too convenient, don't you think? Before Max could respond, a horn-like sound echoed across the plateau. The team froze, weapons raised. From the edge of the purple forest emerged a group of beings, clearly sentient, roughly humanoid, but with gray-green skin and elaborate head crests. They carried spears and wore clothing, fashioned from local materials, adorned with intricate patterns. Indigenous population, Pax whispered. They shouldn't be hostile. Astralans have made peaceful contact before. But as the natives approached, their expressions shifted from curiosity to unmistakable hostility when they spotted the Astralans. They raised their spears, shouting in a language none of the team's translators could process. Something's wrong, Nerra murmured. They recognize Astralans, and not favorably. The natives advanced menacingly toward the team, their spears pointed directly at the blue-skinned crew members. Max stepped forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Wait," he called out. "We mean no harm." The natives halted, their attention shifting to Max with obvious confusion. One of them, adorned with more elaborate decorations than the others, stepped forward and spoke directly to Max, completely ignoring the Astralans. Nerra moved closer to Max, her shoulder brushing against his. "They're responding differently to you," she whispered. "They've never seen a human before." "Translation's coming through now," Pax reported, adjusting her device. "They're saying, the Sky People return, but you are different." Max maintained eye contact with the native leader. "We had to land here for repairs. We'll leave as soon as possible." After the translation, the natives conferred among themselves. Then the leader pointed at the Astralans with clear disdain before addressing Max again. "They say," Pax translated hesitantly, "the blue ones betrayed our ancestors, but you, stranger of pink skin, you may speak for your group." The native leader, whom Max now knew as Krell, led them to a settlement nestled at the edge of the purple forest. Captain Eldon had reluctantly agreed to let Max serve as their ambassador, though he insisted on maintaining communication with the ship. "I don't like this," Lieutenant Pax muttered as they walked. "These primitives should be honored by our presence. The Astralan Confederacy has brought prosperity to countless worlds." Max shot her a warning glance. "Perhaps keep those thoughts to yourself for now. This ancient settlement, a tapestry of dome-shaped edifices crafted from the soil's stone and the forest's wood, unfolded in symmetrical concentric rings around a bustling central square. Max, upon entering, was immediately struck by the intricate artistry adorning many of the structures. He froze, a jolt of recognition shooting through him as he identified unmistakably human figures interwoven with the alien motifs. "Nerra," he whispered, gesturing subtly, "are those what I think they are?" She scrutinized the carvings, her sea-green eyes widening with surprise. Humans, or at least beings remarkably similar to them. But that defies logic. Your species only achieved interstellar flight a mere 60 years ago. Kell then guided them to the most prominent building gracing the central plaza, where a council of elders awaited their arrival. Seated in a semicircle, they were surrounded by walls embellished with further carvings, and what appeared to be antique artifacts. After the formal introductions, seamlessly translated by Pax's device, the eldest council member directly addressed Max. "You bear the visage of the ancient guides," he intoned, his voice steeped in reverence, "those who imparted wisdom to our forebears before the arrival of the blue betrayers." Max observed the Astralan officers and Nerra, whose expressions had become carefully neutral. "I'm afraid I don't quite understand," Max admitted. "My species, humans, has never ventured into this sector of space before." The elder then pointed to a wall carving behind him, a vivid depiction of humanoid figures descending from the heavens, imparting various skills to the indigenous inhabitants. "The ancient guides came when our ancestors were but a fledgling civilization. They taught us the art of cultivation, the principles of construction, and the secrets of healing. They vowed to return," Kell added, his voice laced with bitterness. "And then the blue ones arrived. They pledged to uphold the teachings of the guides, but instead they took." Lieutenant Pax stepped forward, her posture defensive. "This is preposterous. The Astralan Confederacy maintains only peaceful relations with developing worlds." An uncomfortable silence descended upon the chamber. Sensing the escalating tension, Max skillfully steered the conversation. "What exactly did they take?" he inquired of Kell. "The sacred stones," another elder responded. "The benevolent gift of the ancient guides, stones that emanated an inner radiance, capable of mending any injury and powering any instrument." Max's military instincts immediately activated. This felt less like a cultural misunderstanding and more like resource exploitation, veiled as peaceful interaction. Captain Eldon never mentioned any exceptional resources on this planet, Max commented cautiously. Nerra, who had been an astute observer, finally spoke, her voice laced with what sounded like shame. Because it's not in the official records. Max, I believe I understand what they're referring to. All eyes turned to her. Stellarite, she continued, a rare mineral possessing the ability to store and amplify energy. It forms the very bedrock of astral and faster-than-light technology. Official records claim its discovery on an uninhabited moon. A convenient fabrication, Kel spat. A cold dread settled in Max's stomach. He looked at Nerra, searching her face for answers. Did you know about this? No, she immediately replied, meeting his gaze. My research centered on contemporary cultural exchange, not historical records. But whispers have always existed. One of the elders, with shaky hands, rose to his feet and approached a sealed container positioned at the back of the chamber. With profound reverence, he extracted a small, glowing blue stone that pulsed with an internal luminescence. Our last sacred stone, he declared, concealed when the blue ones came. For countless generations we have guarded it, patiently awaiting the return of the ancient guides. He extended it towards Max. And now, you have arrived. Max hesitated. I cannot claim to be one of your ancient guides. Yet you bear their likeness, the elder insisted, and you command the blue ones who fear you. Lieutenant Pax emitted a faint sound of protest, but quickly fell silent when Max's gaze briefly met hers. The stone in the elder's hand pulsed with increased intensity as Max drew nearer. When he carefully accepted it, the glow magnified dramatically, bathing his face in an ethereal blue light. It recognizes you, Kel whispered in awe. Max felt an unusual warmth emanate from the stone, spreading through his hand and up his arm. Not unpleasant, but distinctly alien. The sensation mirrored the exhilarating moment he first breached the sound barrier in an experimental aircraft, that threshold crossing into the unknown. These stones respond to specific neural patterns, Nerra explained softly, positioning herself beside him. Astralan scientists have never fully comprehended why they function more effectively with certain individuals than others. It seems they work best with humans, Max replied, observing the stone pulsating in sync with his own heartbeat. Later, as they were escorted to guest quarters for rest before further deliberations, Max and Nerra found themselves alone in a small yet comfortable room, adorned with plush furs and fragrant dried plants. You're upset, Nerra observed, settling beside him on a low bench. Wouldn't you be? Your people fabricated their first contact with this species, plundered their resources, and seemingly abandoned them to their fate. They aren't my people in that sense, she retorted, a flicker of irritation crossing her features. I am Thalassian, not Astralan. We are part of the same confederacy, but entirely distinct species. Max ran a hand through his hair. Forgive me, that was unfair. But not entirely inaccurate, she admitted, her voice softening. The Confederacy's historical records contain convenient omissions. Most citizens don't question them, and those who do often find themselves relegated to academic backwaters, or worse. She placed her hand over his, which rested on his knee. I've suspected such things, Max. It's why I became an anthropological researcher, to uncover the truth. The touch of her hand ignited a warmth within him that had no connection to the strange stone, now safely tucked into his pocket. In the soft illumination of the room, the silver flecks embedded in her turquoise skin seemed to shimmer. Truth is rarely straightforward, Max said, turning his hand to intertwine his fingers with hers. No, she agreed, moving closer until their thighs met. But some things are. Her free hand rose to trace the curve of his jaw, her touch feather-light. I've been drawn to you since the moment we met, Max Reeves. Humanity's directness possesses a certain allure. Max felt his pulse quicken as he leaned in, bridging the gap between them. Their lips met tentatively at first, then with escalating fervor. Her skin, warmer than a human's, carried a faint taste reminiscent of sea salt and honey. When they finally separated, both breathing heavily, Max rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things, he murmured. Nerra chuckled softly. I think things were already complicated. Her fingers traced patterns on the back of his neck. But perhaps we can navigate this complexity together. Dawn broke over Terrafex 4 in a breathtaking spectacle of amber and magenta. As Max awoke beside Nerra, her turquoise skin appeared to glow in the nascent light, filtering through the small window of their dwelling. The night they had shared had been a revelation, their bodies distinct yet complementary, their passion transcending the boundaries of their respective species. Nerra stirred, her sea-green eyes opening to meet his. "You're staring," she murmured, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Hard not to," Max replied, tracing a finger along the silver flecks on her shoulder. "You're beautiful." She leaned in to kiss him, but their moment was interrupted by an urgent knock at the door. Max reluctantly pulled away, quickly dressing before answering. Kel stood outside, his expression grave. "The Blue Ones are demanding your return. Their leader himself has come." Max frowned. "Captain Eldon is here. He brings others. They arrived in a small aerial vehicle from the great ship." Max exchanged a concerned glance with Nerra, who was now dressing with hurried movements. "We should go and ascertain the reason for this." In the central plaza, Captain Eldon stood alongside Lieutenant Pax and 4 armed security officers. Their postures were rigid, their expressions cold and unyielding. "Mr. Reeves," Eldon stated stiffly, "your presence is required back at the ship. Repairs are progressing swiftly, and we will be departing within 48 hours. Max noted the captain's deliberate avoidance of any mention of their recent discoveries. "What's the urgency, Captain? I understood the damage was extensive." "Our engineers are highly skilled," Eldon replied, his gaze shifting towards the stone dwelling housing the Council of Elders. "We have also detected unusual energy readings within this settlement. As representatives of the Australian Confederacy, we are duty-bound to investigate potential hazards." Max felt the stellarite stone pulse warmly in his pocket. "Hazards, or resources?" Eldon's expression hardened. "I do not appreciate your insinuation, Mr. Reeves. You are a passenger on my vessel, nothing more." "A passenger who saved your ship," Max countered, "and who is now unearthing some rather interesting history concerning Australian interactions with this planet." The captain stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Whatever these primitives have conveyed to you is irrelevant. The official records are unequivocal." "Official records can be falsified," Nerra interjected, moving to stand beside Max. "The stellarite that powers our ships. It originated here, did it not? Taken without proper compensation or consent." Eldon's face flushed a deeper blue. "Dr. Thalassian, you forget yourself. Your research grant originates from the Confederacy Council." "Truth outweighs funding, Captain," she replied coolly. The tension in the air was finally broken when Kel approached, accompanied by the council elder who had presented them with the sacred stone. "The ancient guides left more than mere stones," the elder asserted. "They bequeath wisdom within the Temple of Stars. If the one with pink skin truly shares their lineage, he will perceive it." "We lack time for primitive superstitions," Eldon retorted sharply. Max, however, paid him no mind. "What temple lies beyond the forest?" Krell elucidated. "A day's journey. It's the very place where the ancient guides first descended from the cosmos." Before anyone could respond, the ship's communications officer burst into the plaza. "Captain, urgent message from Confederacy Command. Another vessel has entered the system and is unresponsive to hails." Eldon's expression morphed from annoyance to profound concern. "Identification?" "Mining Guild Registry, sir. A resource extractor." Nerra drew a sharp breath. "The Mining Guild is here. They must have detected our emergency beacon," Eldon muttered. "This complicates everything." Max didn't miss the calculating glance exchanged between the captain and Lieutenant Pax. "What aren't you disclosing, Captain?" After a moment of palpable hesitation, Eldon sighed. "The Mining Guild operates with significant autonomy within the Confederacy. They possess extraction rights that override most regulations, even those safeguarding indigenous populations." "Including protecting indigenous populations?" Nerra queried, her tone betraying her suspicion that she already knew the answer. "If there are valuable resources," Eldon began. "Like stellarite?" Max interjected. "Then yes, they have priority access," Eldon concluded, squaring his uniform. "But that's irrelevant now. We must return to the ship immediately to address this situation." Max felt the stone in his pocket warm, almost in response to his mounting frustration. "I'm going to see this temple first." "That is ill-advised," Eldon declared sharply. "As captain, I order you—" "I am not under your command," Max reminded him pointedly. "I'm a passenger, remember? And right now, I'm accepting the native's invitation." The captain's face darkened. "Lieutenant Pax, escort Mr. Reeves back to the ship, by force if necessary." Security officers advanced, their hands hovering over their weapons. Max tensed, ready for confrontation, but Nerra stepped between them. "Captain, consider your actions," she warned. "Assaulting a human citizen could provoke an intraspecies incident. Is that what you desire on your record?" Eldon hesitated, clearly weighing his options. Finally he relented. "You have 12 hours, Mr. Reeves. We depart then, with or without you." As the Astralan officers withdrew, Max turned to Krell. "We need to act swiftly. How soon can we depart for this temple?" "Immediately," the native leader replied, "but the journey is treacherous." "I'm coming too," Nerra announced, her hand finding Max's and squeezing it reassuringly. Max raised an eyebrow. "What about your research, Grant?" She smiled, the silver flecks in her skin glinting in the morning light. "Some discoveries are worth more than mere funding." The trek through the vibrant purple forest was arduous, yet swift. Krell guided them along ancient hidden paths known only to his people, moving with surprising agility for his apparent age. As they journeyed, he shared more of their history. "The ancient guides arrived when our ancestors still dwelt in caves," he recounted. "They taught us to build, to cultivate, to heal. They foretold that one day their descendants would return to the stars." "And you believe these guides were human?" Max inquired. "They resembled you," Krell affirmed. "Their skin varied in hue, but all possessed your form. They lived among us for many cycles before ascending back to the stars." Max exchanged a glance with Nerra. "That's impossible. Humans only achieved spaceflight a few centuries ago, and interstellar travel much more recently." "Perhaps not all humans evolved at the same pace," Nerra mused. "Or perhaps some achieved greatness and then regressed." The stellarite in Max's pocket seemed to pulse with increased fervor as they ascended a steep ridge. At the summit, Krell halted and gestured to the valley below. "The Temple of Stars," he declared. Max's breath caught. Rising majestically from the valley floor was an unmistakable structure, a pyramid of gleaming black material, its surface etched with intricate patterns that appeared to shift and flow in the light. Surrounding it stood smaller edifices, partially reclaimed by the purple vegetation, yet undeniably artificial. "That's no primitive temple," Nerra whispered, awe in her voice. "That's advanced architecture." "The ancient guides constructed it," Krell announced proudly. "Only those of their blood may access the inner chamber." As they descended toward the temple, Max felt the stellarite stone growing almost uncomfortably warm in his pocket. Was something about this place activating it? Or was it responding to something unique about this location? "I've never encountered anything like this in Confederacy records," Nerra remarked, her researcher's curiosity palpable. "I'm guessing that's by design," Max replied grimly. "If the Astralans discovered this place, they'd plunder it dry." At the pyramid's base, they found an entrance, a doorway shaped like an elongated hexagon, inscribed with symbols that struck Max as strangely familiar. "Those almost resemble Earth languages," he murmured, tracing a symbol that bore a resemblance to the ancient Sanskrit. "The writings of the guides," Krell confirmed. "Only they could open the door." Max removed the stellarite from his pocket. It now glowed brilliantly, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. As he approached the doorway, the stone's light intensified, and the symbols on the door began to radiate in response. With a sound akin to a deep exhalation, the door slid open, revealing a corridor that descended into the pyramid's heart. Krell stepped back, his expression reverent. "You are of their blood. Enter and receive their wisdom." Max glanced at Nerra, who nodded encouragingly. "I'm right behind you." Together, they stepped into the ancient structure, oblivious to the fact that high above them, the resource extractor had entered orbit and was preparing to dispatch its own landing party. The corridor plunged deep into the pyramid, illuminated by strips of light that activated as they passed. Max led the way, the stellarite stone in his palm now pulsing with a steady blue glow that harmonized with the temple's internal lighting. This technology shouldn't exist, Nerra whispered, her fingers trailing along the smooth walls. It's responding to your presence, Max. Not just responding, Max corrected. It feels like recognition. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that stole their breath away. A central platform housed what appeared to be a control console, encircled by holographic displays frozen in time. The walls were lined with storage units and what looked suspiciously like weapons racks. "This isn't a temple," Max murmured, a dawning realization expanding in his mind. "It's a command center." As he stepped onto the platform, the entire room hummed to life. Holographic displays flickered and then stabilized, revealing star charts, intricate technical schematics, and text in a language that felt simultaneously alien and strangely familiar to Max. An aged voice spoke, not in the native tongue, but in an archaic form of English that Max could barely comprehend. Genetic profile recognized. Descendant of Earth Expedition Vanguard. Access granted. Max and Nerra exchanged stunned glances. "Earth Expedition?" Max repeated, his voice barely audible. "What is this place?" The holographic display shifted, showcasing images of Earth and ancient Earth with civilizations that predated recorded history. "Outpost Terrafex established 15,000 Earth years ago," the voice responded. "Final command center of the Human-Stellar Alliance during the Cataclysm War." "Human-Stellar Alliance?" Max's voice was a mere whisper. "That's impossible." "Not impossible," Nerra interjected, her researcher's mind working at light speed. "Just forgotten. Max, this changes everything we know about human history." The display shifted again, depicting a devastating interstellar conflict, massive ships exchanging fire, planets reduced to cinders, and finally, a desperate retreat. "The Cataclysm War resulted in the fall of the Human-Stellar Alliance," the voice continued. "Emergency Protocol Omega was enacted. All off-world human populations returned to Earth. Advanced technology was dismantled to prevent detection. Earth was quarantined until humanity could rebuild." "They reset their own civilization," Nerra breathed, a new understanding dawning. "To protect what remained." Max felt a strange blend of pride and sorrow. His ancestors had achieved greatness, lost it all, and then, over thousands of years, had painstakingly clawed their way back to the stars. "What about the natives of this world?" he inquired. Indigenous population of Terrafex 4 was protected and guided by remaining human outpost personnel. Cultural exchange program implemented, technological assistance provided within safe parameters. "The ancient guides," Max nodded. "They stayed behind to help." "Affirmative. Final human outpost personnel remained until natural end of lifespan. This facility was sealed 14,200 Earth years ago, awaiting return of human descendants." Max placed the stellarite stone on the console. "And this," he gestured, "what is this material?" The display shifted to show molecular structures. "Quantum resonance crystal. Primary power source for Human-Stellar Alliance technology. Designated as protected resource for indigenous population use. Not meant to be stripped from the planet to power alien ships," Max said grimly. "Negative. Unauthorized harvesting detected 320 local years ago. Defense protocols disabled by unknown means." Nerra stepped forward. "The Astralan Confederacy. They must have discovered a way to bypass the security systems. And they've been lying about it ever since," Max added, a fierce indignation in his voice. "Rewriting history to conceal their theft." A new alert flashed across the displays. "Unauthorized vessels detected in orbit. Weapon signatures identified. Hostile intent probable." "The Mining Guild," Nerra said, her eyes wide. "They must be preparing to land." Max studied the displays, noting what appeared to be defensive systems. Can this facility defend against them? Defensive capabilities at 43% capacity, insufficient to repel modern military assault. Max's military training instantly clicked into action. "What about repair protocols? The cruise ship is damaged. Can this technology help fix it?" Max inquired, his gaze sweeping over the racks lining the walls. "Affirmative. Repair drones are available, compatible with most propulsion, structural systems, and weaponry." He zeroed in on a display of weaponry. "Limited personal defense weapons are operational, powered by quantum resonance crystals." Max turned to Nerra, his expression set with purpose. "We need to get back to the ship, warn Eldon about the mining guild, and get these repair drones operational." "You think he'll listen?" Nerra asked with a hint of skepticism. "He will when I show him what I've found," Max responded, picking up one of the ancient weapons that hummed to life in his hand. "And when I tell him what I'm about to do." As they prepared to depart, Max noticed Nerra studying him with an intensity that sent a warmth spreading across his skin. "What?" he asked. "You," she replied, moving closer. "Finding out you're descended from an advanced, star-faring civilization that once spanned the cosmos doesn't seem to faze you much." Max simply shrugged. "Explains a few things, actually. Humans have constantly gazed at the stars, feeling an inherent connection, like we belong among them. Most species would be overwhelmed by such a revelation. We adapt," he stated plainly. "It's what humans do." Nerra's hand found its way to his, their fingers intertwining. "It's more than that. You're standing in a forgotten command center of an ancient human empire, holding technology lost for millennia, and you're already charting your next move. No wonder the Stellarite vibrates in response to you." A surge of something primal and possessive coursed through Max as he looked at her. How did this brilliant, beautiful alien woman see him so clearly? He pulled her close, his free hand gliding to the small of her back. "Coming from you," he murmured, "that's quite a compliment." Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and urgent, their bodies pressing together as if striving to bridge the vast chasm of their origins. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard. "We should go," Max said reluctantly, "before the mining guild lands." Nerra nodded, though her sea-green eyes remained fixed on his. "This isn't over," she promised, her voice low and intimate. "Definitely not," he agreed with a smile that made her silver flecks shimmer more brightly. They gathered their essentials, repair drones, weapons, and data crystals containing the facility's extensive knowledge. As they made their final preparations to leave, Max placed his hand on the main console one last time. "System," he commanded, "initiate full reactivation protocols." Authorization, Human Stellar Alliance Descendant. The system whirred. Processing genetic verification. Confirmed. Full reactivation will require 12 standard hours. Warning. Full reactivation will alert any HSA technology in this sector. "Do it," Max ordered. "It's time."